You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. It is a big baseball news week, and we got all kinds of fun stuff to cover. My name is Tyler Ron. Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill are in New York City. Sam is very dapper today. Dapper Dan. Dapper Sam. He's going to be on the TV later, as Norm Macdonald would say. Looking good, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I am wearing a suit, and there have been multiple people who have come up to me in the office today and just been like, what's going on? What's wrong? Why
did you have to go to a
this?
funeral? What's the deal?
Yeah. Or they're like, what are you interviewing someone? Like, what is it? Why is this happening? Thankfully, I have a very good excuse. Like if I was interviewing for another job, and I swear I'm not, dear Lord, or anybody else I swear I'm not, I'm happy where I'm at.
That's exactly what somebody who was interviewing for another job would say.
Yeah.
Yes. I know Fox is right across the street from MLB headquarters.
That's where I'm headed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Bob. Speaking of being on the TV, am I right? But anyway, no.
Sam's been good at propaganda.
I only spread the propaganda of minor league baseball. Don't you know that? But anyway, we're filming the Top 100 reveal show today. That it's going to be out on Friday. I will be doing a lot of the post-game segments, which will be available on MLB.com alongside Jim Callis and Jonathan Mayo. They will be joined by Greg Amsinger on MLB Network. That will be airing at 8 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. So with the Top 100 will finally be out. This show will be out beforehand. We're not going to talk about it. We'll talk plenty about the Top 100 next week. But it is certainly a big day, and I've got the suit to back that up.
He certainly does. Not to say that Benjamin Hill doesn't look dapper. He looks dapper in a more casual work environment way. What's up, Ben?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm just in my daily business casual clothes. I got nothing to say. I'm not going to a job interview, and no one I know has died. Knock on wood. So dressed normally today, and I'm not appearing on the TV.
Yeah. They're keeping the two of us off the TV while they put the important smart one of this show on there and Sam Dykstra. Well, it is time to dive into Ben's Biz Banter presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball, as we kick off this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. And we have so much to discuss this week. And Ben, we're going to kick things off. Last week, we talked a little bit about some of the changes and the swaps in the Ballpark Guide series, which of course we have at MLB.com. With new parks coming in, old parks leaving the minor league baseball landscape. You're also updating the best of guides to minor league baseball parks, and among those, best concessions in minor league baseball. This is one of my favorite categories. Give us the lowdown on the updates.
Yeah, I mean, best is subjective, as with all things like this. Even more subjective than Sam ranking prospects. That's subjective, but that one is probably based on a little more hard fact than picking the best food. And
there are more analytics for the players than there are for the food.
Yeah, and we're not even
so
getting
far.
Into the fact, yeah, so far. And we're not going to even get into the fact that I have celiac disease and some of the stuff I don't even eat. But yeah, the Ballpark Guides landing page, minor league Ballpark Guides, has a series of best of articles. I'm in the process of updating Ballpark Guides for the 2026 season. So updating the best ofs, and I reworked best concessions a little bit, although a lot of it is the same from previous editions. I chose one standout food item from each level of play, along with several I'm so used to saying alternate identities, along with several honorable mentions. So some of the stuff I picked, I kept this in the article. AAA Memphis Redbirds barbecue nachos. They are fantastic. They're iconic. You go to a Memphis Redbirds game at AutoZone Park, and that's more popular than the hot dogs, the barbecue nachos. They were originally created in a partnership with Charlie Virgos's Rendezvous, a restaurant that is literally a 2-minute walk from the ballpark. I don't think they're working with the restaurant anymore, but the nachos remain. So have that up on there. Double A also kept it in Hartford with the sriracha honey spicy chicken donut burger. You know, they play in Duncan Park and have a pretty phenomenal array of Dunkin' Donuts inspired concession items that, you know, they swap them out every year, but I believe they still have this hot honey chicken on a glazed donut bun. I added the Hub City Spartan burgers to high A, not really for one specific item, but the burger topping bar with 102 frequently rotated toppings. So that's a real choose your own adventure situation. I talked about that, you know, quite a few times on this podcast in the wake of my visit to Fifth Third Field Park, one of the Fifth Thirds in Spartanburg, South Carolina. But I still don't know how they do the math. It seems unlikely to me, but the team claims there are 9 non-million burger combinations you can make at that bar, which is just like a unfathomable number. But I don't know how they arrived at that, but regardless.
I'm sure it's like basic math because it's probably like 102 times.
Whatever.
Yeah. 102.
That's why I work. That's why I work in sports
point.
broadcasting. Yeah, I'm not. No way. Anybody wants to email in and tell us what the actual math formula, the equation would be to find this, you're more than welcome to, but I ain't doing it.
I will say one of those 9 non-million combinations is literally everything in the bar.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want somebody to try that.
I mean, how could you possibly fit 100?
I don't know, but I more out of architectural interest than like culinary interest. I want to see how you would build. Like, would you have to hang some things off of other things? Would you have to just put like a speck of something else? Like, I want to see how you do it, and then I want you to eat it as cleanly as possible.
Yeah, you know what? I probably won't be in Spartanburg anytime soon since I was there last year, but I could ask the team, like, can you create a all-toppings burger and share it with the world?
Works.
I think, and you know, these are frequently rotated toppings, so even that, and I don't know if the frequent rotation comes into play in the 9 million if they're including more than 102. Anyway, it's a really cool minor league ballpark aspect that you can go see a team named the Spartanburgers and get a burger with pretty much to your heart's topped with things to your heart's content. And it's more or less the honor system. I mean, they had like, you know, it's like pulled pork and hot dogs and like fairly expensive items you can top it with. And there's no one like really hovering over it, setting limits. So, you know, just be respectful, don't waste food, and enjoy the burger topping bar at a Hub City Spartan Burgers game. And I kept the Class A favorite. I kept it. I just couldn't bring myself to change it. San Jose Churros, just because there's such a great story there with Paul or Hippolito, Super Churros man, Cerda, the vendor who now has his own standalone concession stand. He used to just bring his churros to the ballpark and sell them, and it was just a San Jose Giants tradition. Now he has his own spot at the ballpark, but I just love that tie-in that it's, you know, churros, you can find them throughout San Jose, I'm sure, but it's not like San Jose is the place with the best churros as a city. It's just like one guy with a great churros recipe started selling them as a vendor, and now decades later is tied in with the team. That's the Copa identity of the churros. They sell churros like I'm just here for the churros t-shirts at the ballpark, and fans absolutely love them. So I kept that in there, added few new honorable mentions, but we don't have to go into a whole lot of concessions talk. But how about you guys? You don't have to go down by level, but when you just think to yourself, I can choose something at a minor league ballpark, any minor league ballpark, this is what I want the most, what would it be?
I always go back to the Portland Sea Dogs ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, the biscuit.
The Sea Dogs biscuit. Oh man, that, like, I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was going to hit really well on a hot summer day, but it's just so perfect in that environment. The cookie is good. It's soft. You expect it. I remember talking to Josh Jackson, obviously friend of the show, friend of everybody listening and participating in this program, and him saying, like, you think it's going to be hard. Normally you bite into an ice cream sandwich of that, and I'm going to use this word, girth, and think like, oh, this is going to be like a block of ice, and I'm going to need to let it sit in the sun for a little bit, and I'm going to get 2 minutes because then it's just going to start seeping into my hand. I don't know how they do it. It's perfectly biteable the second you buy it, and it stays that way throughout. That's my favorite treat that I've had outside of like that. It is kind of cool to get a Nathan's hot dog at Coney Island at a Brooklyn Cyclones game. That's not special to Brooklyn, obviously, but it's still, there's a little extra flavor.
Special to Brooklyn.
It's special to Brooklyn.
Not special to the Cyclones.
No, not special to the Cyclones, right? Like you can get hot dogs anywhere at any ballpark, but like it's still kind of cool to do that with the beach just beyond right field there, and knowing that the original Nathan's hot dog stand is right down the avenue. But those are two that jump to mind. Tyler, I mean, you've traveled to many ballpark as a broadcaster, as a reporter, as a fan. What stands out to you?
My favorite minor league baseball concession thing is, and I don't know if they still do this, and somebody's going to have to tell me, but the Wilmington Blue Rocks used to have just like a fresh cookie vendor who would wander around and had like a bag of warm cookies. And also, if I'm remembering this correctly, would wear one of those like backpack dispenser things for milk. You could order milk and cookies and have it just delivered to your seat. And it was amazing. We used to go up there when I was in the Carolina League. We used to go up there for road trips and just be getting slaughtered by the Wilmington Blue Rocks. And I remember there was one broadcast where I did like a solid 3 innings of a blowout game just discussing cookies, and it was fantastic. I loved that. I also, my favorite, as far as actual meal things go, back in the day when Granger Stadium, which of course now is departed the minor league baseball landscape, former home of the Down East Wood Ducks and the Kinston Indians, Granger Stadium used to have local barbecue. They had these little pulled pork sandwiches that were incredible. And, they had like that Carolina style barbecue sauce, which I know is not for everyone, but I was a big fan of it. I loved Granger Stadium's concessions. It also felt like you were ordering concessions, in Bull Durham, because that ballpark is old and the concession stands was small, and, it was so charming. Basically, any question about like, what's your favorite thing in minor league baseball? It always comes back to Granger Stadium for me. But you can't go wrong. Every ballpark has some amazing offerings and some good stuff as always, which you can find with Ben's updates at MLB.com. And Ben, we pivot now to a story from the Midwest League. The Bowling Green Hot Rods are celebrating an anniversary of an alternate identity. You started to lead into this in our pre-show conversation. You said they're celebrating their 10th anniversary, and I was like, man, they've only been there 10 years? And then you said of the Bootleggers alternate identity, and I was like, oh, right. Time doesn't mean anything, and we have moved so fast that already the Bootleggers alternate identity is 10 years old, which is insane to me.
And they released a whole new logo set for their 10th anniversary Bootleggers, designed by Brandon LaMarche, who's done other work with the Hot Rods. And he says, I saw he tweeted today, or X'd, or whatever you want to call it, that his journey in graphic design in terms of working with the Hot Rods and working in sports started with the original Bootleggers. So there's a special 10th anniversary now, one out now, which is black with some white pinstripes. I mean, Bootleggers is, of course, a reference to bootlegging, the illicit production of alcohol. And that's a good thing to celebrate always, right? Producing your own alcohol and selling it while running from Johnny Law. The team says in their press release today that it was one of the strongly considered actual team names for the Hot Rods, who debuted in 2009, although it wasn't among the list of finalists. So I don't know really how that works, but Cave Shrimp was one of the ones that was a finalist, and they did what I believe was minor league baseball's first what could have been night by having a Cave Shrimp alternate identity. I think the next year, a really early example of that. Bowling Green has always been big on the alternate identities. But this leads me to an interesting question, and I think some of the listeners would be interested here, is this is 10 years of the Bootleggers in Bowling Green as an alternate identity. They've done it every single year since 2016. They have often done it not just once, but throughout the season, often on every Thursday game for Thirsty Thursday. So it seems to me likely that there's no alternate identity. Now we have a minor league baseball landscape saturated with alternate identities. There's no alternate identity in minor league baseball that a team has worn on the field more than the Bowling Green Hot Rods have suited up as the Bowling Green Bootleggers. I can't really think of one off the top of my head that really probably comes close in terms of longevity and frequency. And I don't know how, without going down a rabbit hole to end all rabbit holes, I would confirm that for sure. I don't know even how much information teams keep on this in terms of tracking things for 8, 9, 10 years, but it's got to be way up there, if not number one.
I would wonder if like the one that jumps to mind for me is the Fresno Tacos.
Of course, but they often do that, especially in recent years, just once a year. It debuted 1 year early.
Yeah.
1 year earlier than the Bootleggers, but I think Bowling Green has had Bootleggers nights at a far greater frequency than Fresno has had taco nights.
It's pretty.
As always with this stuff, though, like if people have a contender, chime in.
If you've got a thought, let us know.
There might be somebody who's like, we've actually kept the data on this. We're about to reveal it. I would be fascinated by how somebody's kept the data on that, but you never know.
Yeah, this is where I miss old Twitter. It used to be that I could ask questions like this, and if not get a definitive answer, at least have a lot of conversation, and that doesn't happen so much anymore. I'm on Blue Sky as well, and not doing a good job establishing myself on there as of yet, but I haven't gotten good conversations going on there as well. So I miss that ability to just throw out a random question like this and have a lot of engagement, and trying to find a forum where we can get back to that, because I know a lot of people, when they see it, enjoy these kind of conversations. But I'm going to say right now, until proven otherwise, Bowling Green Bootleggers, the number one most frequently utilized alternate identity in minor league baseball.
Feel free to get in touch with us, podcast@milb.com. All right, Ben, it is minor league baseball's honor to honor the recognized Hall of Famers in 2026. And Carlos Beltrán and Andruw Jones both selected to the Professional Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York this week. And it's always cool. This is one of those fun things that from year to year with new Hall of Famers we get to do, where we look back on their minor league careers. And for these two guys, different pathways to the big leagues. They were born one day apart, by the way, which is sort of wild. Andruw Jones and Carlos Beltrán. But looking back on the minor league careers of these two guys who are going into Cooperstown, tell us about some of the highlights.
Yeah, well, you're right. They're similar ages, and they both were, playing in minor league baseball and excelling, while still in their teenage years. Beltrán, he debuted with the Royals in 1995 in the Gulf Coast League, and then in 1996, he was a member in the starting lineup of the first Lansing Lugnuts game in Lansing Lugnuts history. So he was a member of the inaugural Lansing Lugnuts starting lineup in 1996. And friend of the show, friend of minor league baseball, Jesse Goldberg Strassler, who was a longtime broadcaster of the Lansing Lugnuts. He put out a little article about Beltrán being in that starting lineup on the first game ever at what was then Oldsmobile Park in Lansing. He batted eighth, did Carlos Beltrán, below Carlos Febles.
Carlos Febles, yeah.
Febles, yeah.
Carlos Febles, former Salem Red Sox manager.
Former Portland Red Sox, Portland Sea Dogs manager. And I believe is now coaching with, I want to say the Rays, but don't.
I just saw something about Carlos Febles the other day.
Right?
Yeah, with the Blue Jays, right?
Third base
Exactly.
coach.
Yeah,
I knew
third
that
base
name
coach
sounded
with the Blue
familiar,
Jays.
but yet I still said Febles. I'm horrible. Febles, Jose Cepeda, Emiliano Escandón, Gary Coffey, who I looked up and he did not get the proverbial cup of coffee in the major leagues. Pat Hallmark, Mark Quinn, Doug Blosser, and then batting eighth and playing center field for the first Lugnuts game ever, Carlos Beltrán. And then Matt Trainer as the catcher, starting pitcher Blaine Mole. But he only played in 11 games for the Lugnuts. He got hurt. And then when he was back from the injury, he went right to what was then short season Spokane in the Northwest League. And then in 1997, he spent the whole season with the Wilmington Blue Rocks, who may have at that time had a vendor who sold cookies and milk at the ballpark. And something I saw the Blue Rocks put out this week, which I guess it makes sense, but first Wilmington Blue Rock in the Hall of Fame, Carlos Beltrán.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I assumed some other Blue Rock had been in the Hall of Fame, but that team started, I believe, in 1995. So there hasn't been a ton of time for guys to have full careers and then get elected to the Hall of Fame since then, although that was more than 30 years ago, as the passage of time remains unyielding. But yeah, he didn't play too much in the minor leagues after that, and was with the Kansas City Royals, entrenched, by age 21, and then the rest is history. He's a Hall of Famer now. My main takeaway with Andruw Jones is that, it's a common Andruw Jones, fact or part of his narrative that he debuted in the major leagues when he was 19. So what struck me is that he was able to play 319 games in minor league baseball before debuting as a teenager in 1996 at the age of 19. He played in 1994, he was with the Gulf Coast League Braves and the Danville Braves and the Appy League. In 1995, the whole year with the Macon Braves, hit 277, OPS of 884, 25 homers, 100 RBIs. Then 1996, Durham, when they were still a high A team in the Brave system, double A, Green, Triple A Richmond, and then ended the year with the Braves. And he never played in the minor leagues again outside of some rehab stints later in his career. So not a huge minor league history, but really tough to do. And again, something that we could figure out if we had to, but is that the most games played in the minor leagues by someone who made a major league debut as a teenager? At least, if you're talking about games played before the minor league debut. Would be hard to find, to play 319 games as a teenager and still debut in the majors at the age of 19. So congrats to Beltrán and Andruw Jones, Hall of Famers, and we got little bits of minor league history to talk about through their induction in Cooperstown.
And World Baseball Classic managers, by the way. Good stuff as always. Ben's Biz Banter presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. And coming up, we are headed to the Kansas City Royals organization, Sam, as we get set to discuss top 10s, top 100, top 30 organizational lists. Give us a preview. Who's coming up?
Yeah, we just talked about Carlos Beltrán being a former Royals prospect. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to put Carter Jensen on that tier quite yet, but he's certainly a tremendous prospect. He's somebody who's going to feature very highly in our top 100 update coming out on Friday. Somebody who split last year between AA Northwest Arkansas and AAA Omaha, eventually debuting in the majors. The power really upticked. He hit 20 home runs in the minors, added a few in the majors as well. He's participating in the Rookie Career Development Program this week with Major League Baseball in partnership with the MLBPA, getting guys ready for the show. Of course, he's already seen the show. So what is that like? We get into that. Also, what led to his offensive breakout and what it's like to be a Kansas City kid playing for the hometown team. So here's my chat with Carter Jensen.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
All right, Carter Jensen, top Royals prospect, joining us as part of the Rookie Career Development Program. Carter, you got to make your MLB debut last year, but now you're part of this program. Just as somebody who has already seen the show, what is it like, and what are you looking to take away from this program?
Oh man, it's been amazing. I've had an awesome experience so far. Everything's been great. The team, all the players, and everything been super welcoming. Staff the same way. So. Yeah, it's been awesome so far. I guess just the takeaway from the rookie program, just to kind of get used to, a bunch of different things like that comes with playing in the big leagues, whether it's, social media, nutrition and all that stuff like that. Just hearing from former and current players. It's been great to, hear kind of like their experiences, ask them some questions and, just put some things in the back pocket that, I may not have known before and, I can use to my advantage.
Yeah, what's the biggest piece of advice you've picked up so far, and who is it from?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I think Honestly, I think the confidence in handling failure is a huge part of it. Drake Baldwin talked today. He was a rookie this past year, won Rookie of the Year. Had immense success. So hearing from him, somebody who's in a very similar situation to me. Being a rookie and last year, he was a rookie catcher, and that's going to be me. So. I think hearing him, talk about failure, handling failure, knowing how to handle that in different ways, personally, and also talking to a bunch of teammates about that. A lot of the veteran guys on the team who have experienced it year in and year out. So, I think that's been the most beneficial part for me because I think it's baseball is such a mental game sometimes, and being able to handle failure is a huge part of it.
Yeah, and I cover prospects. I don't get to ask guys much about this because once they've graduated to the majors, we kind of pass them on, right? But you're somebody who still is technically a prospect, so I want to ask about that first MLB at bat. I was watching video of it, before we started here. You're going up against Kenley Jansen at home. You're a Kansas City guy getting to hit at Kansas City. There's a massive ovation before they even say your name. Everybody's realizing what this is for you. What are you thinking as you're walking to the plate?
Yeah, it was crazy. Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. We're down, trying to start something up and facing Kenley Jansen. Definitely a really cool experience, to have that first one be in that situation against a future Hall of Famer. It was crazy. I think it was before I even stepped foot onto the field and they saw me at the top step when I was on deck or in the hole, about to be on deck. I stepped out and the stadium went crazy. They were cheering and I was like, oh my God, they haven't even said my name yet. I think everybody's starting to notice. But, at first I kind of took it all in, just lived in that moment and gave myself about 15, 20 seconds to just really soak it in. And then after that, it was back to business. And, I knew what I had to take care of and, I had to be locked in for that at bat. So, knowing the scouting report and everything like that, keeping that in the back of my head and, going out there and just playing the best of my ability. That's what I try to do every time I get out there. So it was definitely a special moment. It was really cool to just kind of be on the field. It felt like I was in a video game at first. I played a bunch of MLB The Show and I played at Kaufman in that game. It's like I feel like I'm in a video game. It was surreal, but it was amazing.
And one of the unseen parts of this, I'm sure, is you're getting called up. You're a Kansas City guy. How many ticket requests were you getting?
Oh, it was unbelievable. There was a ton. There was a ton. Family, of course, friends, old teachers, family friends, stuff like that. There was a time I think I knew at least 200 people that were there, and that's just like who I knew. There might have been more that were there, but yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's a rare opportunity for anybody to make their MLB debut, but for you to do it at home, it seemed extra special. Let's talk about what earned you that opportunity. And one thing that stood out to me for you last year, career high 20 homers between Omaha and Northwest Arkansas. Obviously, added a few more in the show after that. What led to the power breakout? How much of that is just physical maturity, you getting older, but also what adjustments were you making to allow power to play better in your game?
Honestly, this is gonna count. It's gonna sound kind of funny, but I almost made less adjustments. I stopped
Hmm.
worrying so much about my mechanics and like what do I need to do to get my hands in the right spot at the top of my load so I can fire in the right time. Like I stopped worrying about that so much. I was so concerned about I need to make sure my mechanics are in the right spot. I need to make sure I'm putting myself in the best spot. But like I've worked so hard the past however many off seasons since I got to pro ball. In the season, I've worked so hard on my mechanics to where it's like it's become a second nature to me. And when I'm in a good spot and I'm not working on anything, in specific, I know that I can go out there and just have a clear mind, and literally just think, put the bat on the ball. And that's what helped me the most. I just stopped trying to make so many adjustments and stopped trying to be so perfect all the time. And I was able to just go up there with a free mind, see the ball, and put my bat on it.
Yeah, that's interesting because in watching some video, it looked like your hands were a little bit lower. You were just like cleaner to the ball. I want to ask if that's an adjustment, but it almost sounds like it was more you being relaxed at the plate than
Yeah, it
anything.
was 100% just go up there and just be relaxed. Like get myself in a spot preload, pre-pitch to where I can just sit there and I can just feel relaxed completely. And that helped a ton. I wasn't tense up in my shoulders and that didn't cause me to, pull off the ball and stuff like that. I was just able to completely relax and it helped a ton.
Yeah, and you're somebody too. One of the things that's impressed me most about your career, you're a consistent poster. You're always, it seems like playing 90, 100 plus games, which is not easy to do for a minor league catcher. There's so many things that could go wrong in terms of injuries. What do you feel like is the key to making sure you have been available as much as you have in your minor league career and keeping that going right through to KC?
Yeah, I think it's 50-50. Half of it's a mentality and half of it is just taking care of my body. Making sure that I'm not skipping time in the training room, making sure I get in there, take care of my body. I'm eating right, sleeping right. And then also just the mentality, man. Like I realize I'm in such a lucky spot. I get to play baseball for a living. It's all I wanted to do when I was a kid. So it's like I'm just so happy to be able to be out there and play the game that I love as a job, and I'll never take that for granted. And that's I think why, like you said, I'm so available and I play so much just because like I feel like I never run out of gas. I love baseball so much. I just want to go out there and play. That mentality has just carried me through. And then also when you add that with the nutrition, sleep, and taking care of my body, I never get tired.
Yeah, and there's just so much involved in the act of catching, right? Blocking, receiving, framing, throwing. What is different about you now as a catcher compared to where you were when you were drafted in the third round?
Yeah, definitely just a lot cleaner all around. Coming in as a catcher, younger, straight out of high school, I was very raw. Uh, I showed some flashes of some good things behind the plate, but I had never really worked really hard on it. I'd always been a bat first player. But once I got to pro ball, they told me, they said, hey, when you get to the big leagues, like when you get up to the higher levels and stuff like that, catching is number one. Defense is number one. Being able to handle a pitching staff, call a game the right way. It's the most important thing that a catcher has to realize. That's the most important part of the game. Hitting obviously comes second, and if I'm able to succeed on the offensive side of the ball, then that's just a cherry on top. But I really just kind of bought into that idea of, all right, like if I'm going to be a catcher, I have to be solid defensively, or pitchers may not like to throw to me, or I might make mistakes back there when I have the ball in my hand almost every play, after every pitch. So it was definitely just had to really buy into it, buy into the defensive side of the game, and kind of push hitting to the back burners a little bit. Obviously, I still worked hard at it, but making catching the number one priority.
Yeah, and what do you feel like are the next steps for you in terms of framing? Because that's something that's even with ABS, and we're going to touch on that in a second. Framing is still a very important part of the game. How do you improve on that, especially as you're somebody now who's not just catching double A pitches, you're catching major league quality pitches left and right.
Yeah, I mean it's super important, just as important now as it was however many years ago when there was an ABS, just as much as last year. So definitely a lot. The game's changing with ABS and stuff like that, as you had mentioned. But I think even with that, teams only get two challenges, and there's a lot of opportunities still to steal pitches and steal strikes. So I think it's super important still. It's something that I'm still going to be working on. And I have one of the best catchers to ever play right beside me as my teammates. So just really picking his brain, picking Salvi's brain, and just learning from him. He's been doing this for a long time. There's a reason he's been doing this for a long time, and in my eyes, he's a future Hall of Famer. So just learning from him, picking his brain, taking drills that he does, just kind of sitting back and watching, and learning on days that he's catching. That's what I love to do, is just be a student of the game when it comes to all that. So obviously continue working and all that, but using the resources I have around me to help improve my game as well.
Yeah, you touched on Salvador Perez there. Growing up as a Royals fan, I'm sure you revered him. What did you think of him as a fan, and what have you learned about him, both as a player and as a teammate, now that you are in the same locker room with him?
Yeah, he's amazing. I tell people all the time, he's one of the best teammates I've ever had. Watching from the fan side, it's like you see him around Kansas City, the Salvi smile is super popular. He's always smiling, having fun, playing the game, and honestly, it's very similar. Like when you get to being a teammate with him, he's always got a smile on. He's always super energetic, bringing others around him up, and like the work ethic that he has is unbelievable. To be able to watch that. It's been a blessing for sure to just be alongside him and see how he works, how he prepares. It's definitely something that I want to put into my game, and I want to basically be the type of player that he is now for me later down the road.
Mhm. Yeah, and obviously he's a veteran. I said we were gonna circle back on ABS. Now you're kind of a veteran of ABS, having gone through it with Omaha and the Arizona Fall League before that. I'm sure a lot of your teammates, no longer how long they've been in the show, are going to be asking you about that. What is your advice for it, especially as a catcher? Because I feel like most teams give it the bulk of the responsibility to catchers. They don't want batters always challenging. They don't want the hitters one, but the catchers have to be back there all the time and see so many pitches. So what is your advice for how to work the ABS system the best way?
Yeah, I think just knowing yourself and knowing how well that you know the zone is the most important part. And then, just trusting yourself, trusting your decisions, not trying to, be too perfect with it. Obviously, you don't want to waste a challenge on a pitch that you're pretty sure is a strike, but maybe you make an emotional decision, not trying to strike out or something like that. I've seen that, but yeah, just trusting in yourself. And obviously, like I said, also like not trying to make an emotional decision. Um, Say you're upset that you took a pitch that you might have been able to hit well, and you think that it could be a ball, and you end up challenging and it's fully in the zone. Just trying to take emotions out of it and trusting in yourself. I think that's the biggest two things.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're speaking a few weeks out here before you go down to Surprise. You'll be there early before pitchers and catchers report. But just take us through what a spring training is like for a catcher, and especially somebody now who's on the major league roster. You're going to have to know every pitcher in camp. I imagine half the job is just homework and finding out everybody's stuff. Like, take me through that side and trying to work with so many different arms.
Yeah, for sure. I've already started, talking to different guys, hitting up some of the pitchers that we have, talking to them, asking how their off season's going. I think part of it's just being personable, getting to know, your guys on a personal level so you can kind of create that level of trust, I think is very important. So I guess once spring training starts, I'm getting with every pitcher, wondering, how their offseason went, if they're adding anything new, stuff like that. And then we're straight to it, straight to the work, and catching as many people's bullpens as I can. Managing that workload and stuff like that, and also taking time to work on my own personal, catching stuff like that, working on the hitting side. So um, spring training is a little bit hectic sometimes, especially at the beginning, but once it kind of gets going, it gets a little bit easier and it's just a little bit smoother once everything kind of gets going. So, yeah, we have an amazing staff. Everybody's, works really great together. So I'm excited to get down there and get going.
Mhm. Yeah, and kind of combining that with what we were talking about before with Salvi. I mean, one of the Royals' problems, and it's not a problem at all, is sorting out how playing time is going to work for you guys behind the plate. How do you envision that working out? And have you guys chatted about like what it's going to be like sharing duties, or what is an ideal situation for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm good. I'm the type of player, whatever the team needs, I'll do. So that's kind of the mentality that I have. I don't want to go into spring training expecting anything. I kind of want to go in with a clear mind and, take care of my business. Whatever happens, happens. We haven't really talked much about it, so I'm sure during the spring we'll talk about it and kind of create a little game plan. But as of right now, I'm just kind of getting ready and um, going in with a clear mind, ready to go, and whatever they ask me to do, I'll do.
All right, well, this is the last one, and I can't let you go without asking about this. One of the storylines of the offseason now in Kansas City is the changing dimensions of Kauffman Stadium. What was your reaction, especially looking at some of the data? It seemed to really kill power for left-handed hitters. Now they're bringing in the fence, shortening the fence. What was your initial reaction, and how do you think it's going to affect your game?
I was pumped up. Anytime that it's going to be easier to hit a home run, I think I'm going to be on board. So, it's been cool to kind of look at and see how it's going to change. So, I think that it's nothing but positives. And I'm looking at it in a super positive way. And can also make sure that I'm not changing my swing or anything like that, trying to hit more homers because um, part of the thing of the reason why it was brought in, I guess, was because of the data that, the hitters that we were last year, it would have helped us out. So, not changing anything, not trying to hit homers, but hopefully going to be pleasantly surprised with more of them. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, Carter, that's all I have for you. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with everything that is in the small few weeks remaining of off season, and good luck with the start of spring training here
I
in
appreciate it.
February.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, huge thanks to Carter Jensen from the Kansas City Royals for joining us on this week's episode of the show before the show. And with that, we're going to pivot to some other on-field things and news item that came out as of last night. We're recording this on Thursday, January 22nd. The Milwaukee Brewers have acquired a couple of prospects from the New York Mets in exchange for starting pitcher Freddy Peralta, formerly the Brewers ace and now arguably the Mets ace, along with Tobias Myers. They go to New York and headed to Milwaukee. Infielder Jet Williams, who is now ranked as the third ranked Brewers prospect, and right-handed pitcher Brandon Sproat, who becomes Milwaukee's number 6. This is part of a pattern for the Brewers in recent years, who are really good at flipping their best pitchers, some of their best pitchers who are headed into contract years in exchange for minor league prospects. Corbin Burns, of course, going to the Orioles in 2024. Devin Williams went to the Yankees later that year after the 2024 season. But Sam, a couple of really good pieces headed back to Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to this, as somebody who's working the prospect side, right, is that obviously Freddy Peralta was on the trade market. Everybody knew that the Brewers were willing to deal him. They were listening to offers all offseason to get two guys who are going to be on our top 100. And I won't spoil exactly where they are, again, because the show's coming out Friday night after this episode is already out. But Jet Williams will be in the middle of that list. Brandon Sproat, who's not on the top 100 at the end of last year, is going to join the list towards the tail end. So for the Brewers, they pick up two top 100 guys. Obviously, they're trading away 1 year Peralta, but they're also trading away Tobias Myers. So they're giving up somebody with a little bit more control, I think, in order to get these two high quality prospects. And when I heard Jet Williams going to Milwaukee, I kind of laughed because Jet Williams is 5'7" and he's incredibly fast. And what do we know the Milwaukee Brewers love? It's short dudes who can run. Sal Frelick, Caleb Durbin, you go all down the list. They love quality up the middle prospects. Everybody does. I know that. But they really value, hey, let's get as many guys who can play up the middle as we possibly can. We're going to sort it out. It's going to work. Don't worry about it. So in Jet Williams, they get somebody who last year hit 261, 363, 465 with 17 homers and 34 steals in 130 games. I dipped into the data a little bit. He had 13 bolts, which are sprint speeds at or above 30 feet per second in only 34 games at AAA. Only Luis Angel Acuna had more for the Mets last year, and he's also been in the news this week. He's going from the Mets to the White Sox in the Luis Robert trade. But he was the only one to have more among Mets major leaguers. The Brewers had significantly more than that. They had 5 players who met or exceeded that mark. It was Jackson Chourio, Sal Frelick, Brandon Lockridge, Bryce Terang, and Blake Perkins. So Jet Williams is going to fit right in with that track team that exists for Milwaukee. If you watch him hit, it's really interesting because even though he's diminutive at 5'7", he does a really good job of lifting and pulling the ball. Like he's trying to do that all the time. And even though the ex-velos are closer to average, you can still hit maybe 15 to 18 homers a year by pulling it and lifting as much as he does. He's trying to make the most of that average power. So I like that. Obviously doesn't have a huge strike zone, but he's not going to expand it to swing. He's not somebody who gets overly swing happy. So he could have, I would say, an average hit tool and average power. You throw that in with the speed, you throw that in with a pretty good arm. Listen, he was rotating between shortstop, second base, and center field, primarily because he was always going to be in Francisco Lindor's shadow in Queens. So the Mets wanted to try him up the middle. Now it's at the point where I don't see him being at second because Bryce Terang is the best defensive second baseman we have in baseball. Joey Ortiz, really, really good defender, can't hit. So would Milwaukee can Williams at shortstop, knowing he's a more well-rounded package? That's interesting. Maybe they put him in center and just let him run out there, move Jackson Chourio to a corner where he was slightly better defensively 2 years ago. Now they just have options, and that's what Milwaukee loves, is just having options that they can plug multiple places. Maybe they try him out all 3 and just see where he fits best, see where the other guys fit best. And this is how they continually end up being a team with 90-plus wins, is because, hey, if this doesn't work, we have somebody else to fall back on. Brandon Sproat, by comparison, yes, they are losing their number 1 pitcher. Freddy Peralta was going to be their ace if he stuck around for next year. Brandon Sproat is not a plug-and-play ace, but he is somebody with actually major league experience. Jet Williams he's gotten some time at AAA. I would expect him to open next year with AAA Nashville. I think Brandon Sproat for the number 4 or number 5 job out of spring this year. It's a really powerful arsenal. He's got a lot of stuff that'll play in the mid 90s. He's got a 4-seamer that really just has average movement that can really get banged. So he used more of the 94 to 97 mile per hour sinker. And he's also got an 83 to 86 mile an hour sweeper. Those are his 2 weapons against righties. Against lefties, it's a kitchen's 89 to 91 mile per hour changeup, 79 to 81 mile per hour curveball. And then there's a shorter slider in the upper east too. So he's just going to try to throw as many things as he can against lefties to hold off some splits issues. He had a fascinating quote last year talking to Anthony DiComo, our Mets beat writer, about a mentality. I don't want to say change because he's always thought this, but he actually wrote it on the inside of his hat, which is let it eat. He's somebody who throws hard, but felt like maybe he was being a little too delicate. Just keep that intent. Keep the intent throughout the game. He really turned a corner in the second half last year in Syracuse after some initial struggles, but the control didn't fall off either. So that's why we added him to the top 100. I do have concerns about the fastball, but the fact that he's able to mix in so many different things and that sweeper can be so good, I think he has an opportunity to be a back-end starter for Milwaukee throughout his time until free agency. Maybe he gets to a little bit better than that. Maybe they work on some movement, or they just put him on the sinker full time and he gets to be a number 3. But the big thing for Milwaukee here is getting a controllable arm. You know, Freddy Peralta, they only have 1 year left. Tobias Myers was going to be in that number 5 discussion, but kind of felt like an extra arm to them. Brandon Sproat, I think, has a higher ceiling than Myers does and can be part of that Milwaukee rotation for a long time. And, you know, I wrote this in a story last night for MLB.com. Milwaukee just loves to keep the wheel turning. Hey, if you know, we're going to cut bait on a guy who has been around here for a long time and we developed into an ace, let's get somebody else in who's going to be that next guy for us. And we'll see if they make it work with Sproat, but now they've got guys that they can continue to plug in. These are not prospects who are far away. These are guys who should help out the team at some point in 2026.
All right, Sam, top 10 lists continue to roll out. As you noted, the top 100 will be out later this week. But most recent top 10 lists that have dropped shortstop and outfielders. Give us the highlights of these. I know we talked about how, you know, some top 10 lists have a lot more depth than others. Where do these ones stand?
Yeah, I mean, shortstop is the deepest list that we have. And I'll just run through the top 5 right now. Connor Griffin, Pittsburgh Pirates at number 1. Kevin McGonigal of number 2, Jesus
Which,
Made.
by the way, I just have to jump in really quick and point out that we got another great email from Gregory. And Gregory, you're going to have to email us and let us know how to say your last name because it's either Koch or Koch. But Gregory pointed out, we said on the podcast last week, this has nothing to do with anything, by the way, but we were talking about Kevin McGonigal. We made a reference to that being a parody of MacGyver on The Simpsons. And Gregory pointed out, he said, quote, despite what you said on the podcast, the TV series MacGyver exists as itself within the Simpsons universe. And he points out that Patty and Selma love MacGyver. McGarnagle is a title character from, quote, an in-universe TV show that's a parody of Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, and the hard-boiled detective style. He is unrelated to MacGyver. So Kevin McGonigal and McGarnagle, you're in the clear. And I know that was what people were dying to hear about, talking about the top 10 list for outfielders.
No, it's good. It's good that we cleared the air on that. And I'm grateful we get those emails.
Me
So
too.
many times we say, please correct us. And the fact that we do actually get a correction.
He is a 10 out of 10 emailer, man. That guy is sending some emails that are just so good. So big fan.
To keep it on brand, an 80 grade emailer, perhaps. Let's put it that
exactly.
way. All right. So just to reset here, number 1 for Pirates. Number 2 is Kevin McGonigal of the Detroit Tigers. Number 3 is Jesus Made, Milwaukee Brewers. Number 4, Leo DeVries of the Athletics. Number 5 is JJ Weatherholt of the St. Louis Cardinals. If you want to look at this and say these are the top 5 prospects in baseball, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. All of these guys are just supremely tooled up. Connor Griffin, the most tooled up prospect that we've seen at the number 1 spot for shortstops since maybe Bobby Witt Jr. And if you want to go even beyond Bobby Witt Jr., I wouldn't fight you on it. Connor Griffin's a bigger version of Witt. There were some questions about the hit tool. Erased those last year. Hit the ball extremely hard. Throws the ball extremely hard. Runs really well. Got a lot of votes for the best defensive prospect in baseball. A lot of people thought he was going to maybe split some time between short and center field. as the Pirates tried to figure out where that athleticism best played. And he became such a good shortstop that they just haven't considered center field anymore. Like, he's going to play short in the big leagues and going to play it extremely well. So that's what moved him up to number one here. Kevin McGonigal, for my money, the best hitting prospect in minor league baseball right now. Does everything well. Really good plate discipline, good swing decisions, hits the ball at the right angles, hits it hard. The swing is aesthetically pleasing. There's really not many holes you can poke in his offensive game. I think the biggest thing for me is, like, where is he going to end up? We have him listed here at shortstop. He got a lot of time at third base in the Arizona Fall League. I think he still might be a best fit at second base. But you know, the Tigers right now, they just brought back Gleyber Torres, who accepted the qualifying offer. So second base is kind of blocked off. Kevin McGonigal's going to hit his way to Detroit, maybe as early as opening day. And they'll figure out the defense later. I know that's a big sticking point for him personally, not just evaluators, but he knows he needs to get better defensively. But otherwise, that guy's going to compete. I was talking to somebody earlier and saying, like, I think Kevin McGonigal could win 3 batting titles before he hits free agency. Not just his career, before he hits free agency. Like,
That's pretty good.
It's going to translate immediately. Jesus Made, long time. I've been a longtime fan of his, which is kind of crazy to say considering he's only through 2 minor league seasons to this point. But somebody who reached AA last year in his age 18 season, just really quick twitch hitter. I think he can improve a little bit defensively, but I think he ends up sticking there. Good runner, good power, put 60 on the hit, 60 on the power. A lot to dream on there. You know, we talked earlier about Jet Williams maybe taking over for shortstop because he's a little bit more well-rounded. Jesus Made has a considerably higher ceiling than Jet Williams, and he's hard charging right now. You look back at the Jackson Chourio path, he's certainly on that right now. Chourio did not debut in his age 19 season. I think Made could. I think he could see the majors in August or September. We'll circle back on that. Obviously, exposure to AA and AAA. A lot of guys have struggled with that transition. So maybe it's not on the cards. Maybe we're talking about more opening day for 2027. But I think it's potential for Made. Leo DeVries, obviously the big acquisition by the A's last year at the trade deadline. Absolutely tore the cover off the ball down the stretch in AA. I think just needed some time to get used to that level. But the power is still there. Still some questions about him defensively. But he's the same. He was in the same international class as Made and got to AA faster. And I think sometimes we get lost in that. And we're like, oh, well, the data is not there. And, you know, he wasn't doing all these things. It's like, well, he's being challenged a lot. First in the Padres system. Now the A's are picking up that mantle. We'll see how him and how quickly they push him. But, you know, if Leo DeVries, what we saw down the stretch and in the postseason for AA Midland, returns quickly, he's going to move quickly again for the A's and be another solid piece of that infield that already has Nick Kurtz, already has Jacob Wilson. Exciting times are certainly ahead for that organization. And JJ Weatherholt, I mean, is right there with Kevin McGonigal in terms of hitting the ball hard, hitting the ball the right angles, showing all fields. I think he's equally as good a runner, maybe a better defender than McGonigal right now. He's got some time at second. He's got some time at short. He's got some time at third. The Cardinals are trying to figure out exactly where he's going to land. Obviously, they have a little bit more of an opening at third base right now because of Nolan Arenado's trade to the Diamondbacks. But Brendan Donovan is still certainly on the trade block as well. And I think that would be a better spot for Weatherholt than third base. But he's in the competition for opening day spot. And I think out of anybody in this group, he might have the best shot at winning Rookie of the Year, just because the way we've seen him be so advanced. He has AAA experience unlike anybody else in this top 5 here. And the Cardinals are clearly making room for him, and I think he can hit the ground running there. Group, I'll just run through the outfielders real fast. Won't break them down quite as heavily, but number 1 is Max Clark of the Tigers. Number 2 is Walker Jenkins of the Twins. Number 3 is Josue De Paula of the Dodgers. Number 4 is Carson Benj of the Mets. And number 5 is Zaire Hope of the Dodgers. Max Clark and Walker Jenkins, both part of the same draft class. They were part of a big 5 that year, along with Paul Skeens, Wyatt Langford, and Dylan Cruz. They were the 2 high schoolers. I think both of those guys are going to debut. I'm really excited to see what Clark can do. He made some gains in terms of actualizing his power in game. And I think a lot of people, that was the biggest question for him because he's going to play a heck of a center field. He can throw. His overall hit tool is really good. It's just, is he going to have enough power? And I think he's gotten to the point now where we could see him be a 20 homer guy. You know, I was having another conversation of like, can he be Pete Crow Armstrong with a much better approach and slightly less defense. And I think that's an enviable player to have. And Pete Crow Armstrong, by the way, had a much better power season last year than anybody would have expected as a prospect back way in the day. And we saw him crumble towards the end. I don't think Max Clark has the plate discipline to crumble. It's just, is he going to hit for impact the way PCA did? But everything else is right there for Max Clark. And I think McGonagall's ahead of him in terms of being able to reach Detroit quickly. But if you get Parker Meadows and Max Clark in the same outfield, that's going to cover a lot of grass. And then you can put Riley Green wherever you want out there. That's going to be a really, really strong outfield for Detroit, and an enviable group for a team that, should be knocking down the door right now, hopefully trying to make the most out of Tarek Skubals last year before he hits free agency. But yeah, Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal, two of the prospects on this list and quickly coming to the Motor City.
So the top 100 list coming up late this week, but of course you can check all of the top 10s. Organizational top 30s will be forthcoming, and fun stuff as always from Sam Dykstra and all the other legends on prospect coverage, Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo, everybody else. And what else you got?
Yeah, what else do I got? I mean, top 30 work starts on Monday, right? I mean, it's been started. Trust me. Top 30 work has been started. But once we get this top 100 out, it's immediately pivoting to team lists and churning out all the blurbs on that and as much information as I can get on that, and getting, feedback on various lists and coordinating with beat writers who are doing our top 10s or top 30s for their organizations. The work never stops on this. People think like, oh, it's January. It's the off season, pitchers and catchers right around the corner. I've been shoulder deep, neck deep, increasingly chin deep in pitchers and catchers writing up these prospect reports. So we're pivoting next week towards that. That'll be out, I believe, early March. So we'll be coming out with that right ahead of spring breakout. Then we're into spring training. Then we're into the season, and on and on and on and on. So this is just the start. I know we've been talking about top 10 positional lists the last 2 weeks. Top 100 we'll get to next week here on the show. But then we got so much more to talk about when we dig into these top 30s later in the spring.
So you can keep it locked on MLB.com/pipeline for all of that. And coming up, we will get set to wrap this thing up. Thrilling edition of Name That Dude is ahead. And we'll say goodbye for this week's episode of the show before the show.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Saying goodbye on this week's episode of the show, but before we get out of here, it is time for this week's edition of America's favorite game show craze, Name That Dude, in which one of us names a dude of baseball years past, and the other two will try to guess whom that dude is. This week, the dude knower is me, which makes Sam and Ben the dude guessers. And let's dive in. I'm learning about this dude as I look at his baseball reference page. This dude was drafted 9th overall, which I did not realize, in the 1992 MLB first-year player draft out of a town called Bamberg, South Carolina. Bamberg, South Carolina is a town of less than 3,000 as of 2024, according to the internet. And this dude was drafted by the New York Mets in that 1992 first round. He made his professional debut at the age of 18 the following year, or for his age 18 season, with the Kingsport Mets of the rookie-level Appalachian League and the Pittsfield Mets in Pittsfield, friggin' Massachusetts, that Sam Dykstra knows well and loves. 8 games. Sam wasn't even alive at that time. Well, he was.
Yes, I was. What are you talking about?
Wasn't going to many Pittsfield Mets games.
No, I wasn't going to Pittsfield Mets games, but I was certainly aware of the town of Pittsfield. Anyway.
I don't know, at 3? You think you knew about Pittsfield at 3?
Let's say yes. I was somebody who stared at maps as a kid, so let's say yes.
Okay, 1994, he moves up to one of the all-time greatest logos in minor league baseball history, the Capital City Bombers of the South Atlantic League. He was back there in 1995. 96 made the climb to High A. He was with the St. Lucie Mets. 97 with Double A Binghamton after starting the season about half the year in each spot with St. Lucie and Binghamton. 98, he is finally at the AAA level and finally at the major league level, but he was traded during that 98 season. So he played for AAA Norfolk and for the Mets. He also played for AAA Charlotte and for the then Florida Marlins. He was with the Marlins through 2002. Only one minor league stint through any of that time. He was with the Calgary Cannons of the AAA Pacific Coast League for a handful of appearances in 2001. 2003, 2004, he was with the Colorado Rockies. 2005, he was with the Rockies and the Washington Nationals. 2006 with the Houston Astros, and he finished his career, at least on the affiliated side, part of 2006 and into 2007 with the St. Louis Cardinals. He did play 48 games for the Long Island Ducks of the Independent Atlantic League at 34 years old in 2009. And he hit 302 with an 818 OPS, which is pretty impressive. Does anybody have any guesses as of now? I think I've done a good enough job. I don't think I've alluded to whether or not this guy is a pitcher or a position player.
You mentioned appearances, which normally you don't do for a position player, but
maybe I threw that. Maybe I threw that.
Yeah,
in
that could be a red
off the trail.
I don't have a guess, but was this guy part of the Mike Piazza trade? Just thinking of that next to Marlins, transaction.
That is a very good question. Let me see if on his overview page they actually have the specific transaction listed for who was included in that deal. And they do, and it was the Mike Piazza trade, traded by the New York Mets to the Florida Marlins for Mike Piazza. So that was a 3-player deal, 4-player deal, I guess, if you include Mike Piazza. He was later part of another trade, which was also quite a big one, for Mike Hampton. The Rockies, of course, threw a bajillion dollars at Mike Hampton, signed him for a short period of time. Mike Hampton, who was an all-star with the Colorado Rockies, by the way, during his debut season in Colorado, which people forget. But Mike Hampton pitched less than 2 full seasons with the Rockies before he was traded. Although he did not appear in any games for the Marlins, he was traded by the Marlins to Atlanta. But yes, this dude was part of the original Mike Piazza trade in that organization.
Well, that was a good guess by me on that, but I still don't have any real sense of.
Okay, he was a position player.
I don't know.
He was an all-star in 2003 with the Rockies, some Coors Fieldian numbers. He drove in 141 runs and hit 36 homers that year with an OPS of 880. He finished second in the league in Rookie of the Year voting back in 1999. And
with the Marlins, right?
Yes, with the Marlins.
Okay.
Yes. I'm gonna see if I can give out any hints that are going to take this over the line.
Just think of like Vinny Castilla.
I thought Vinny Castilla, but he's not from South Carolina.
He's not born in Bamberg.
If I know Bamberg, and I feel like I do, which honestly, if I do, then I should know this answer. So we're talking Marlins, Rockies, a little bit of time with the Cardinals. Who else?
Marlins, Rockies, Cardinals, Astros for a brief, 2/3 of a season in 2006. Nationals for less than half a season in 2005.
Man,
did I stump these dudes? Okay, I'm going to
give
throw
us a
out
position.
He's an outfielder. Center field.
No.
Since we're, talking center fielders on this week's episode of the show before the show, with a couple of them headed into the Hall of Fame. He wasn't just a center fielder, but primarily a center fielder. I'm going to see if this tips you off. He is both the nephew and the stepson of Mookie Wilson. Mookie Wilson married his mother after his brother
I remember
fathered
about
this
guy, but I
child.
still don't remember.
He is, I don't know if he still is, but he was for a long time on the Marlins TV coverage.
No, I don't know why Juan Pierre comes to mind, but it's not Juan
He
Pierre.
did not drive in 140 runs. with
Yeah,
the Rockies.
right.
All right, one last hint for you.
God,
If
man.
I can give it to you, one last.
This is not good for the
last
people
one.
at home who are all yelling at their devices right now, and I'm sorry for that. But go on.
Although I don't know if this ever actually happened. This is on Wikipedia, so it's like you never really know if any of this is accurate. Yeah, I'm gonna hold that one back because I'm not sure that this ever happened. Although it is linked to a story on the Frederick Keyes website. As of April of last year, they announced that this man would serve as their manager for 2025. But on their website, he's not listed on their website as having been their manager, so I'm not sure what happened there.
Well, the Keys are in the midst of transitioning to.
We're the Frederick Keyes.
Yeah, they
Park
might not.
one in the bleachers.
Going from the
yeah
New York Penn League or the MLB Draft League to affiliated ball might complicate that. I'm whiffing on this. I feel
wow.
Put us out of our mercy, Tyler.
All right.
I mean, wait, put us out of our misery with your mercy.
With your mercy, yeah.
This dude who was Baseball America's High School Player of the Year in 1992. Last guess? Anybody?
I'm so sorry.
Very disappointed in all of you. Preston Wilson.
Oh, I thought once you said Mookie, I was like,
Preston
yeah,
Wilson.
that should have been the hint. That should have been the hint. Because that's, I was thinking like, well, it could be a different name, but no, that doesn't make sense. If it was his mother married Mookie, Preston Wilson. Duh.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
Preston Wilson.
Dude,
And
I apologize to Preston Wilson.
I loved Preston Wilson. He was so much fun to watch. And those are like very formative years for me as a baseball fan because the summer I graduated high school was his all-star year here in Denver. He was fantastic. That year he slashed 282, 343, 537. 36 homers, 140 driven in. He also he was out there every day, played 155 games. The next year, I'm away from home for the first time. You're like trying to stay in touch with your teams. He got hurt for part of that season, and that was a big bummer. And then in 2005, they ended up trading him away. So he was just like this brief burst of like, oh, that dude's really fun to watch. And then he was gone nearly as quickly as he came. But Preston Wilson, Bamberg, South Carolina, the pride of Bamberg, South Carolina, big legend. One of those Hall of Very Good guys, I feel like, Preston Wilson, who also, I did not know this, was a member of the USA Baseball 18U national team at one time, according to his baseball reference page. So that'll do it for this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. A guy who was traded for Mike Piazza and Mike Hampton in some just like random 3 years apart deals. And also was, tied to a legend in baseball history in Mookie Wilson. Just very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. Preston Wilson, wherever you are, you're awesome, and we love you. For Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill, and all the rest, my name is Tyler Mon. We'll catch you next week.